I'm getting a lot of network problems, and this might help. All right, if I turn the camera off.
No problem. Right. Okay, so Tinky, yeah. What I'm interested in sharing is actually most of it is around meditation rather than in it. There are techniques. There are obviously many techniques. You know, we could say mantra, repeating a word in your head, breathing, yeah, looking at a candle. You know, in fact, there are hundreds of different techniques for meditating, which is the activity, if you like, of meditation. I'm kind of what I want to do here is to sort of introduce the sort of what surrounds it, because I think that is what does not get taught often. Okay, so yes, you know, we're going to walk through a series of exercises, and I'm going to tell some stories as we go along as well. So it's a kind of, you know, multimedia, you know, presentation in that sense. And then towards the end, we will do it. You know, I use a sort of guided meditation type technique, but you know, I call myself more a tour guide. So I'm pointing out things that you've probably seen a million times but not really noticed. So which is the sort of the field, the field in which you meditate, and that's really what my purpose is. So just a little bit about me. I went to a bit of a strange school. It was the last school in the country that stopped caning. But they also taught us to meditate. So I learned to meditate at school. We meditated at school regularly. And of course, as a teenager, I never actually meditated. I sat in a darkened room with my eyes closed and you know, thought about other things. But when I was about 21, I met a guy in an art class. He was about 65 or whatever, a very ordinary guy. He was a sort of greengrocer, as far as I remember. And we got on really, really well. It turned out we both had the same birthday. And John, we used to go for a drink, and John told me one day that there was a point in his life where it was a real mess. He believed that his wife was having an affair. He believed that his kids were all on drugs. He believed that his business partner was trying to scam him. And he had insomnia. He was going nuts. And he came to a realization that he never told me whether these things were actually happening or not, but he came to a realization that it was all in his head, or that the problem was his thinking about it. And as a intelligent man, no doubt, but you know, not spiritual in that sense. He came up with his own plan to deal with that, which was that he lay on the bed, and he put a matchbox on a table next to him, and his mission was to look at the matchbox and think about nothing else than the matchbox. And when he first started doing that, he could only do it for a few seconds, but he had insomnia, so he had no problem with sleeping, or rather he had a major problem with sleep. He couldn't sleep. So he practiced this, and after 2 weeks, he said he got to about 20 minutes where he could look at the matchbox for 20 minutes without thinking about anything else. And it's not about necessarily that he wasn't thinking about anything else, but he wasn't focusing on those thoughts. The thoughts maybe would be coming in and out, but the matchbox was what he was focused on. And you know, and he carried on doing this every day, and he got very good at it. He could do it for a couple of hours, and one day he decided, he wondered what would happen if I did this all day, because obviously he started to feel a lot better. He was getting the benefits of it. So he lay down on the bed, and by this time he'd replaced the matchbox with a candle, which he watched through a mirror at the bottom of his bed. And he did this exercise for a whole day. And during that day, his wife obviously probably wasn't having the best relationship with his wife at the time. She came up, she saw him with his eyes open on the bed like this. She brought her friends up, he told me, to look at him, and he didn't stop looking at the candle. They were watching him, and then his wife got a bit nervous and called the doctor. The doctor came around and examined him, and he said, well, he's not dead, you know, but his breathing and his heartbeat and everything had gone very, very low. And so the doctor said, well, basically call me in the morning if he doesn't improve, sort of thing. And then at the end of the day, John got up and he drove to his weekly poker game. And he said that he was in this very, very deep, peaceful state, but he was still able to drive, and he saw his mates and sat down with his mates, and his mates all knew there was something up with him. And he said, what's up with you, John? He said that he only smoked one cigarette the whole evening, whereas normally he would smoke all the way through. And he completely cleaned up the table. He completely took everyone to the cleaners. And as a 21-year-old, this particular part of the story made a big impact on me. So I kind of knew how to meditate. I said to John, that's meditation that you're doing. And he kind of shrugged and he said, I don't know anything about meditation. But really, the point of that story is that meditation isn't this complicated, esoteric, deep thing. It is, a guy lying on a bed looking at a matchbox. Very straightforward, focusing on one thing. So that's kind of what got me going. And at the age of 21, I started to go, well, maybe I can work this out. Maybe I can get this. So I started to meditate properly, and I did get it, and I got it quite fast, actually. So what I'm about to talk to you about is kind of the journey and the things that I sort of learned along that journey. I met a lot of different people who gave me a lot of different insights. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to just share my oh, actually no, before I do share the slideshow, which is very short, by the way, what I'd like you to do is a sort of system status check. Tune into your body and your mind, and feel how it is at the moment. Is your body comfortable? Is it buzzy? Is it stiff or tense? And when you kind of go into your mind as such, feel how much space there is. Sometimes when we're stressed, it feels like your mind is stuck to the inside of your head. And sometimes when you relaxed and more, more at peace, that your mind seems to expand out. Sometimes it expands out to the room. Sometimes it expands further than that. Sometimes you can feel the city. So it's quite a good thing just to sort of check in to that status at the moment. And I'm going to share a slideshow. It's very, very fast. It's very basic, because the whole purpose of this is to get into this fairly quickly. So this is kind of like the theory, my theory of the case. So we're going to go first to a quote, I think, which is this from Osho. And I'll introduce you to Osho briefly in a sec. Meditation is like a rabbit trap. Once you've caught the rabbit, you can throw away the trap. That might seem like a kind of bit of an odd statement. What I love about Osho, I call him the original gangster guru, because he often says the opposite to what other people are saying and challenges what they're saying. Where I learned that meditation was the most important thing in the world from my particular teachers. He's like saying, it's a means to an end. And so the interesting thing about Osho, and he comes back to this subject again and again, that meditation is a kind of game you play in order to find something. The question here is, what is the rabbit? And what I want to try and do in this session is to obviously introduce a lot of competencies, if you like, around meditation, but ultimately, hopefully, try and get you to experience the rabbit. What the rabbit is. The rabbit is ultimately the real you. When we spend a lot of our time looking for something in the outside world, or pursuing objectives and things, it is the rabbit that pursues. It is the rabbit that looks. So it is the rabbit that meditates. That is something which people have been trying to understand for centuries and centuries. I'm told you can do it instantly. And I'm hoping that that's going to be the case. And in fact, to that end, I'm going to ask a question. I'm going to ask you a question, and I want you to observe yourself in your inside. When I ask the question, observe what happens. And the question is, where are you? And what I would expect, and I'm sorry I'm moving on fairly quickly, but that's okay. What I would expect is that when you hear that question, your first reaction to that is a blank spot. It's a fraction of a moment of blankness, and it is that blankness that is the rabbit. That's you. All the other stuff, the name, the body, the job, the house, the relationship, all of that other stuff is not you. You are this observing entity, this consciousness that looks out through your eyes, and this consciousness that hears through your ears, and that moment of flatness, that blank spot is it. When you're asked who are you or where are you, the answer comes back immediately, which is you are that spot in the middle. So moving on, that's Osho, the original gangster guru. As I say, I like him because he challenges common misconceptions about things. If you haven't seen the Netflix thing about Osho, and it's got nothing to do with meditation, and I'm only putting it there because I think it's hilarious and good fun to watch. But I have got the picture on the left there, which is that Osho, he had many different meditations, including the laughing meditation, where he would make everybody laugh, or rather he would insist that they all laughed and they force themselves to laugh. But by the end of that laughing meditation, of course, everyone was laughing for real. And so he had a very different concept of meditation, which is that it's not necessarily sitting in a dark room focusing on one thing. It is focusing on one thing, but it's not necessarily focusing on what we normally think of meditation as. And but the series, the Wild Wild Country, is good fun. So how I define meditation, and when I was taught to meditate, they told me it was like a mantra meditation. They said, sound the mantra, listen to the mantra. And to be honest, that's kind of the only instruction they ever gave, and maybe a couple of other suggestions, but it wasn't enough for me. They could have told me some stuff that would have made the whole learning to meditate a lot faster, and that's kind of what I'm trying to deliver here, is that stuff. So I'm going to expand on what they say, which is that sitting still, is a meditation in its own right, and we're going to do a little bit of that in a bit. Focusing on one thing, and keep waking up, and the keep waking up bit, that in a way, that is the meditation. That is the real meditation. It's the constant waking up. I would say sit very still. I would say focus is a bit of a dodgy word, a difficult word, although I use it all the time. The difficulty with focus is that it's focus without effort, and that is that's a tough one to learn. Or rather, it's not tough to learn. It's a tough balance to achieve, is to focus without effort, because the two, focus sounds like it takes effort. And the other thing is focusing on one thing. In fact, the Buddhists start with training their monks to focus, and then through that focus, they expand their awareness out to everything. And that's called open monitoring. And open monitoring is ultimately the deeper meditation than a focus. And they've done experiments with monks on this, where they hook a very experienced monk up to the EEG monitors, and record his reactions to like loud sudden gunshots. And in a focused meditation, he has more of a reaction than when he's in an open monitoring. So when the monk is in deep open monitoring, he hardly reacts to a gunshot. So they know that. So again, I'm just sort of saying you have to be a bit careful with the word focus. And the keep waking up bit, well, I'll just say, what does waking up mean to you? And so there's an exercise here which we're going to do now, and that is that we've all got these problems that we're constantly trying to solve and think about. What I'd like you to do is to go into that, choose the top one off the top list, and go into that problem and have a look at it. Go there. However you experience that, whether it's a picture, whether it's words, just bring it to mind, go into it, really feel it, really feel how it makes you feel, how it makes your body feel. And then come back into the present, which is what I call waking up. Come back into the present moment. And how do you do that? What is the present moment? Well, feel your hands and feet. Feel your feet in your socks. Feel the temperature in the room. See what is in front of you. This is experiencing the present moment. And if you go back to the problem again, back into your mind, back into the pictures, back into the feeling of the problem, and start to notice the difference of how you feel when you're in your mind in the future. Maybe the problem is in the future and you're worried about what's going to happen, and then when you come back to the present, feel your hands and feet, and then go back to the problem. And as you jump from one to the other, you'll notice that in the present, when you go into the problem, your eyes kind of slightly mist over, you defocus, your body maybe starts to buzz a bit. And when you come back to the present moment, it's your vision is clearer, sounds are clearer. And so there is a very tangible difference. And by the way, stay in the present now. There is a very tangible difference between the two. And it's a very neat exercise to work out, where am I? Am I lost in the mind? Am I lost in the future and the past? Or am I in the present? And by bouncing between the two, you get a very clear feeling for what the difference is. You also get a very clear realization that you have a choice, that you're making a choice. There's a choice being made all the time between the present and the mind and the future or whatever. So that's that slide. And let's see, where do we go from here? We're gonna go back to that. We're gonna go back to that exercise, that kind of exercise again. But for now, I just want to talk about the different dimensions of reality. When we're in the present moment, there's a physical dimension, which is the body, your body, and objects, and bones and things like that. And then there's the emotional dimension. I mean, we can split reality into many different dimensions, but this is my one, if you like. This is the one that I've evolved. The emotions are in the mind, but they're also in the body. You experience emotions as heart rate and adrenaline and things like that. So it's very much a physical thing, but it's also triggered by the mind, as it were. So you've got then the mental space, which is where the imagination is. You can imagine things, you can recall things, visualize things, have conversations with yourself. We all know that the mind is where we live most of the time, particularly as knowledge workers as we are. And then I did have Diane and the guys that were here before. I did have belief up here, but I'm now turning this to meme. That a meme or a belief is the things that the ideas that are in the mind that rule your life. maybe belief is a better word for it, but a meme kind of gives you that idea of, the picture and the words, and so the things that you believe are true, and these really rule the mind. And then the question is, what's at the top? I'm just going to show you this picture here, which is off the $1 bill, the American dollar bill. And this is that symbol of the Illuminati, the sort of conspiracy theory Illuminati. But this is actually a very ancient spiritual symbol. And what you have there is the pyramid, and which represents the world, the stacking of different dimensions and levels. It represents organizations, it represents all kinds of stuff. The pyramid's a very powerful symbol. But in this case, you've got an eye at the top. And that eye is deliberately separate from the pyramid. Although it's the top of the pyramid, it's got a gap there. And that eye represents what Osho talked about as the rabbit. It is the observer. It is the real you. The real you is actually separate from everything that you experience. And in fact, you could say that if you experience something, it is not you. You are the experiencer, and the experiencer is detached. It's not attached to the experience. It just observes it, just watches it. So the eye represents that watching, but obviously it's not just watching, it's feeling, it's hearing. Anything you can experience is not you, but you experience it. You experience that stuff, and that it's quite a powerful symbol. So finally, and this is pretty much the end of the theory, as it were. Finally, this is a kind of an odd diagram, but what it represents is what the Hindus call the koshas. They're actually bodies that are superimposed. So you've got your physical body in the middle, which is bones and skin. And then where is it? Let's see. We've got the mental body, which we kind of talked about, which was the mind, and the mental body, the mind expands beyond the body. It can go anywhere. And inside that, I think it says, what does it say? The etheric body, which is very close. Or the emotional body, second level emotional body, which I meant, which is what I was talking about. Emotion is that experience of energy within the body, which we're going to explore. The emotional energy, or the energy of the body, does expand out beyond the skin. It does sort of, it's kind of furry. It feels like fur. I'm not going to go into the other levels, but the point I think about them is that when you meditate, you can go through these dimensions, and do go through these dimensions. And I think that you recognize some of these dimensions because you're quite familiar with them, but it's only when certain things are pointed out that it becomes clear. And what is the final thing? Okay, well, so I'm just going to spin quickly back to the basics. Sit still, focus on one thing, keep waking up. So we're going to do a little exercise, and I'm slightly hesitant about this because last time I did it, I just said look at the wall. But I'm going to ask you, and I'm not going to try and brainwash you in any way, but I'm going to talk to you while you look at this spot. And what's great about this is actually used in some scientific meditation exercises. What's great about this exercise is that it really shows you the movement of your eyes. So if you could, the exercise is to look at the black spot in the middle and focus on that. What you'll find as you focus on that is that the halo, the blue halo, either moves around or disappears. And in fact, it disappears when your eyes are not moving, and it reappears when your eyes are moving, and which makes it quite a useful tool. In fact, Buddhist monks use this exercise to see if their mind is calm, because if their mind is calm, the eyes stop moving. So keep looking at the dot, keep noticing the halo and how it moves. And also notice that, you know, the world hasn't stopped. Yeah, it's still going on. There's still noise around you. Your body is still alive. It's still heart still beating. You're still breathing, I hope. Yet your mind is, you've chosen and you're continuing to choose second by second. You're continuing to choose to stare at that black dot. And as you stare at the dot, you might notice ideas and thoughts coming in, like, you know, what the hell am I doing this for? You know, this is boring, or the blue halo keeps moving around. That means, do you see what I mean? Your mind is moving, and those thoughts are not important or relevant. And this is essentially the core competence of meditation, is your ability to choose over and over again to focus on one thing and allow all the distractions to just go past you, to let them go. You know, the classic one is the barking dog. You know, it's essentially everything that you hear, see, can feel, everything in your peripheral vision, it's all part of this experience. But you're repeatedly making the choice not to look away, but to look at the dot in this case. And the dot represents any of the devices that people use to meditate. In a sense, you know, Osho's laughing meditation, you could say, well, you know, in the laughing meditation, you just laugh and you just listen to the laughing, you know. So this is if you can continue, what I'd like you to notice though is that there's also an inner eye, a mind's eye, an inner seeing, and you can align, you can choose for your inner mind to stop thinking about other things and to also focus on the dot, to see the dot. And it's a bit like lining up your thoughts and your actions. And there are moments when your inner eye is resting on that dot, that you'll find that the halo completely disappears, and there may, you know, it might not disappear for very long, but it you know, there may be moments where you're not making any choices. It's just the dot is just there. So that's a sort of how I break things down into individual little exercises. That ability to just focus on one thing is very core. And the constant waking up is the repetitive decision to come back to that single focus. Now, that's the end of the slideshow. I might just come out of that now and just take a moment. Does anyone want to say anything about that? You don't have to, but just to make sure you're still all out there, because obviously with the cameras turned off, it's hard to gauge. Anyone want to say anything?
Yeah, definitely. David, sorry, I'm having a few Wi-Fi issues myself.
Okay.
Hold on, I'm trying to put the camera on. Everyone's good.
Don't have to put the camera on.
Okay. Yeah, so yeah, that exercise, looking at the dot, definitely when I really focus on it, it disappeared. I was like, oh my God, it's disappeared. And it kept on, first it kept on coming and going. And then I could really, then it kind of disappeared for a second, and then it came back again. So it was kind of moving all over the place and disappeared. So that was really useful, actually, just to kind of, I suppose, help kind of focus on that one thing, that one dot. So that was kind of my experience.
Cool. Thank you. Thanks. Very good. Well, look, that's the basics, as it were. That's the idea. What I'm going to do next is walk through a process which is and I would say it's a bit like it's a process which I would go through relatively quickly when I meditate. I'm going to go through it quite deliberately, and it's a process where we're going to see those different dimensions, and I'm going to point a few other things out as we go along, but walk through the dimensions of experience as a sort of guided meditation, and what I'm hoping is that not that you necessarily remember all of this, but that you remember that, you know, there are these different dimensions. There are tricks along the way. There are signposts along the way, which are very useful. And when you do sit, Deborah, for example, when you do sit, you might remember to go through these steps, because it helps you kind of center yourself for the exercise.
Yeah.
And actually each one of these, and I'll point this out as we go along, each one of these exercises could be a meditation in their own right. Okay. So and you can do this with your eyes open if you want to. You can do it with your eyes closed. But the first thing that we're going to do is go into posture. So hopefully you're sitting, and in meditation, and most teachers will tell you this. They'll tell you to sit up straight. The reason for sitting up straight, and there are many, is that aligning the spine. There's a lot of energy that goes up and down the spine, obviously, and all your nerves and stuff go through the spine. On a very practical level, if you're going to sit for a long time, you want to be completely comfortable. You do not want the body to be uncomfortable, because that's distracting. So it's very hard to sit for a long time slumped, because it puts pressure on the spine and it's uncomfortable. So the other reason is that if you can start to stack up your spine, you can start to stack up the vertebrae of your spine and really get them straight, then you'll find that you can relax into that and hold that pose with some practice, let's say, but you can hold that pose for a long time without becoming uncomfortable. So whether you have your eyes open or closed doesn't really matter. Move the spine around. Imagine the spine as a stack of bricks, like the stack of bricks that you had as a kid, and how you would try and build a very tall tower with those bricks. That's kind of what we're doing with the spine. Keep moving it around, and or literally move your focus up your spine and see which bits you can feel and which bits you can't feel. Keep moving them around. Notice, if there's any sort of pressures, if it's out of alignment, and just sort of keep moving gently. Now, as you move, you might stop for a bit, relax the spine down, and then make smaller adjustments. And then finally, your neck, your head, roll your head forward so that your chin is on your chest, and then roll it back onto the top of your spine. So now your skull is sitting on top of the tower. Balance, and again, move your head around so that it's until it's in that position. Keep your chin in a bit. Now, sometimes, and I find this a lot of people, including myself, our habit is to put our head forward, particularly working on computers, and pulling your chin in and relaxing your skull back. There is a position where it literally balances. And sometimes when you get that balance right, you can feel kind of pressure on the top of the skull where it's all lined up. And if you feel like you're all lined up, and you feel like you can relax the spine down on itself, then you have the posture, you know. And when you hold that posture, it might feel somewhat uncomfortable to start with. There might be pain. The pain is something we're going to go through, but eventually you will come out the other side of pain, and that's quite common in meditation, that there will be pain at times. You can come out the other side of that when you go through the pain and relax into it. Eventually there will be sessions where your spine almost evaporates because there's no pressures on it whatsoever. It's just balancing itself. And that is the physical body. The physical body made of bones and muscles. What we're going to do now is sit very still. Sit so still, like, again, when you're playing that game of statues. Yeah, we're literally a statue. You will have to keep breathing, naturally breathing, but otherwise we're still. And the moment that you sit very still, you transition immediately from the physical body to the energy body, the emotion. You can call it emotional body. It's the energy going through the body is what you're feeling now. If you don't move your body, if you don't move your bones and muscles, then the body starts to feel like it's evaporating into this energy. And the energy you can feel on your skin. I experience it as what I would call a high resolution buzz, almost like very high, very fine pins and needles almost. It's on the skin. The skin is covered in nerves, so that's what you're feeling there, is the energy of the nerves. But that feeling of energy also seems to go beyond the body, like fur. It almost feels like fur. You know, when you don't move, when you're very still, the boundaries of the physical body evaporate. And again, I would say that meditation, if there is an objective, the objective is to merge or evaporate, the usual identifications with the physical body and mental thoughts, future and past. The meditation is designed to do that. And this is a very practical realization, I would say, that stillness, sitting very, very still, you instantly transition from physical to energy. And that energy is the life force, is the actual life force. You can feel the energy going through your core. You can feel the energy in your head. You can feel it on your skin. And you don't actually have to be still to feel that energy. In fact, we're feeling it all the time. And once you've tuned into the buzz on your skin, the buzz in your head, once you've tuned into that energy, you can check it at any time of the day. And in fact, it's the energy that you are aware, makes you aware of whether you're stressed or calm, because your body gets ready for fight or flight when you're stressed. The energy body is something to be aware of, very useful to be able to read it, to feel it tangibly. And it's as simple as just sitting still. And then we're going to notice that in and around that energy, there are thoughts swimming around. There's an imagination. There's a visualization. One of the core visualizations is you see yourself in a room. You know the room well. You know yourself. You know what you look like, and that visualization is in your mind. You can imagine the room. You can feel the outside, the sounds, hear the sounds, feel the energy of the city. You know the city well, you can navigate it, you know your way around it, you know what it looks like, you know what it feels like. And you can also imagine beyond the city, to the country, to the planet, out into space, to the galaxy, and beyond the universe, to the silence, into the silence that we're all floating in. And your body and your energy and all of the sounds and feelings are all part of that, are all arising out of that silence, that vacuum, the void, which you can imagine. And your imagination, your vision of that universe and yourself in it can all occur at the same time. And this is ultimately what the Buddhist monks go towards, which is open monitoring. Essentially what we're doing right now is open monitoring. You know, all of this stuff we are aware of all the time. It becomes more, you become more aware of it in meditation. These different dimensions are what makes up our reality. And you could easily go through those stages, the body, getting the body straight, the energy body, and going into the mind, working out or feeling into the space, the mind space. Eckhart Tolle calls it space consciousness, being conscious of the space. This is, you know, a meditation which, if you were to now concentrate on your breathing, focus on the breathing, feel the breath going in and out. Focus on your nostrils. That focus on the breathing is the essence of Buddhist meditation, vipassana. So the focus on the nostrils would be the object of meditation, or what I would call the device, the game, the rabbit trap. and the observer is the rabbit. That it's the invisible center of the circle. So as you focus on your nostrils, realize that the nostrils aren't you. The head, your head is not you. But there's something in the center. And in fact, there's something everywhere, which is the consciousness. Maybe you experience your consciousness as being in the center of your head somewhere, but you notice that your consciousness can move around. So the rabbit that Osho talks about is you. Once you find the center, once you find yourself, then he says you can throw away the rabbit trap and just experience yourself. Experience yourself in the universe, part of the universe, merge with the universe. And gently open the eyes. The rabbit is always with you. You are always yourself. It never goes away. You can connect with it instantly in any situation. In fact, you can't avoid it. It is you. It is part of you. It is the thing that's looking rather than the thing that is being looked for. And yeah, I would encourage you all to check in again to see how the energy's changed. You know, in the half an hour or hour that we've been talking about this, you know, you come in with one status and you leave with another. And I think the difference between the way you feel before and after is something that in meditation is very valuable to recognize, because you know meditation isn't always, you know, blissful and beautiful and whatever. Sometimes you're in, you know, in a state and you don't necessarily get out of that state, but you do meditate through it and you do feel different afterwards. So you know it's a very good exercise to notice how you feel afterwards, you know, and to acknowledge that. And well, we've kind of landed, and you know, I think what we learn in meditation is that we can be meditating all day, you know, and not necessarily in a blissed out state of, you know, eyes rolled back, but being that in that centered place, in the center, and feeling everything around you and being present. That's the goal, isn't it? That's the objective of life, of you know, if only. Anyway, thank you so much for trusting me to do that stuff, and thanks for turning up.
Oh, thanks, David. That's really helpful. Thank you. Enjoyed that.
That was really good. Really good.
Thanks, Tinky.
Thank you.
Right, guys. Well, have a lovely weekend, and thanks for being here.
You too. Have a nice weekend,
Cheers.
all. Take
Thank you.
care.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.